Hello there, Lisa Fitzgibbon here from Project 7 and welcome to our check-in service. So this is where we're going to hook up with our previous headline producers and our alumni from all around the world. We're going to find out where you are, what you're doing, what you're working on, how you're doing it, that kind of thing. Anyone who's been to one of our Project 7 events knows what an intensely challenging and rewarding week it can be, where forever friendships are made and creative connections that last are created. And this is the check-in service. So we're going to try and put everyone together so we can hook you up with your Project 7 kin. And today we're checking in with Project 7 headline producer Lauren Deakin-Davies. A pop Indian folk record producer and songwriter, Lauren recently won the European Pro Sound Awards for Breakthrough Studio Engineer and the NMG's Producer of the Year Award for the second year running. As well as working for Gary Barlow in his private studio and managing her own production projects, she finds the time to be the front woman, writer and producer for the neo-punk art pop band Didi, whose debut EP was featured on Radio 6. Lauren is the new generation of music producer. With several award-winning releases under her belt already, the coast looks very clear for a big, bright future for Lauren in this ever-changing world of music. Hello, Lauren. It's Lisa Fitz checking in. How are you?
Hiya, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really well, really well. Yeah, getting on with things. So tell me, where are you during this lock-in, Lauren?
So I'm currently at a family friend's house and I've converted the garage/pantry into a makeshift studio, which has worked out really well, to be honest.
Brilliant. Looks great. Looks really well set up. You've got your mic, you've got your tailored guitar in the background. What else does a girl need?
I know, right?
So tell me, Lauren, what are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment, I am primarily remotely working for Gary Barlow because I work with him full time. And so I'm working on projects that he's sending through. But also coincidentally, the reason that I'm here was because I was recording one of the people that live here and then I got locked down at their house. So we have now written 19 albums and recorded 4 operas and like...
Wow, that's a massive output.
I know, right? It's been really nice working on that. And I feel very privileged, actually, because as a producer, it's really nice to get to work physically with someone in the same room. And so I feel really lucky that I still get to do that, as well as working remotely on external projects at the moment.
Brilliant, brilliant. So tell me, Lauren, what actually drew you initially into this wild world of music production?
Well, I think I have a similar path to quite a few people. I was in a band, thought I was going to be famous, the classic. I was in a girl band when I was like 15 and we were working with Island Records. So we dropped/got kicked out of school and started pursuing the career as artists. And when we were in the studio, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I was like, I want to record all of the music that I see. And I realized that you could write songs so well if you knew how to record. So it kind of naturally diverged on from that.
Well, you've produced and written and released over 200 tracks. You've worked on probably more than 10 albums now. What's your favorite genre of music to produce?
I would say probably alternative folk, maybe. I think, yeah, my background is in folk. So I really like working on projects that have the heart and the soul of a well-written folk song, like usually vocal and guitar or vocal and piano, but then working with an artist who is super open for being like, let's put some reverse electric guitar on this, or like, let's put the sound of bubbles coming out of the sea in the second verse, like, kind of things like that. And I think that's such a delicate balance between the two sounds. So,
Lauren, what's your ideal songwriting environment? So if you were to set up the ideal team and the ideal space, what would be the Lauren Deakin-Davies writing session room look like? What would it look like?
Writing session room for me is something that doesn't necessarily look like a studio. I think some of the best writing sessions I've done are just living rooms or kitchens that we can just put the computer and whack the interface down, the microphone set up. Like that's kind of, I think as soon as you put this is a space, this room is a room you have to write in and you have to write good songs in, there's too much pressure on it, where I think being able to write you should be able to do it anywhere because you feel it, because you're inspired by what's happening. And then the producers should work around the artist, which is how I think producers always should be.
So what do you bring as a producer who is also a musician? What do you bring to these kind of writing teams?
Two things. One, because I regard myself as a writer completely anyway. So I think having the ear of like picking out motifs, or, you know, like, oh, that bit's definitely the hook, or making people redo certain sections. Also generating ideas. But I think also like on a gear front as well, just like I will just bring an interface, a laptop and a microphone as well, so it's not intimidating, and maybe like a MIDI keyboard if you even need that. Like you can just use the keyboard on the thing. But I think a writing session should feel like really fun and nice, and like you're collaborating with someone, and it shouldn't feel like we have this many hours to get this song done in this time. So I think like I want my role to be not noticeable. I think that's, as a producer, I want it to be not noticeable, and I want it to contribute as a writer, would be my view on that.
So speaking of that then, I mean, you're also front woman, writer and producer for the neo-punk art pop band. That's a mouthful. So
oh God,
tell me,
wow. Yeah.
tell us all a little bit about your career in front of the mic.
Well, I guess my career in front of the mic kind of started when I was younger in that girl band. But after that kind of disbanded around the time I was 18, 19. More like 20 actually. I just became a session musician. So I was still behind the mic in that sense. And that's how I ended up getting a lot of clients, was because I was a session musician at gigs, and I asked people if they had got any recordings, and they often hadn't. So then they recorded with me. So that was like a thing. But I got to a point where I just was only working on other people's music, and I didn't think I cared about that, because I love supporting what is happening. I was like, man, I have to write something that's my own. I have to write something that is purely just for me, like not even intentionally for release or anything. And so I recorded my first song, Sorry, which was like rubbish, like grungy guitar, like deliberately no drums. I punched a chair and I used pens on a tambourine as a hi-hat. Like I just wanted to be like, this is not squeaky clean, or like this is not folk, this is whatever. And I think like that was so cathartic for me to have that experience. And then I really like art and branding and things like that, so I showed it to my parents, and obviously they were going to be biased, and they were like, this is really good, Lauren. And I was like, oh, thank you. So I released the track, and then it did really well, and then I had a follow-up track ready for it, and it got played on it got premiered on BBC Radio 6. And I just ended up getting playlisted and a lot of things, so people kind of got behind it. And I think maybe what was so nice about it was because I wasn't trying to be anything. I was just like, this is me, you know, the stuff I've produced, you know, I work in that genre, this is not that genre. And the fact how many people embraced that, just because they were like, you're doing you and it's cool
and fresh as well. It would be really fresh for yourself as well.
Yeah, it's interesting 2 years on, or 2 and a bit years on now from that time, because I feel like I've started to fall into a pattern of what I think I should sound like. And this whole lockdown and everything has made an interesting change in my mindset, being like, why am I doing music again? I'm not doing it for commercial release. I should be doing it because I love doing it. Because that's what the whole project was for anyway.
So what's happening with Didi in the future? What's your plans with Didi?
Well, I had a load of studio time booked in to record an EP that has just been wiped out completely. But obviously I still have the facilities to record here. But I think it was in a way serendipitous. I think the music that I recorded was not going to be the right music for what I was like for me, or what was going to be released. So I think it's given me a chance to look at it. But oh my God, the live shows. Oh, I was so ready for the live shows. I've got like a brass band. There's like 7 people in the band at some points, like got all the graphics, the like design, the like full set from start to finish, like all the, you know, I was like, you'll come to our show, or you'll come to my show, and you will just be like entertained. In theory, I have a few shows at the end of the year that would be quite big shows that I'm very looking forward to. So hopefully we'll still be able to do that. But overall, I think it's just made me think I have more time to perfect this or make it good or change things. So it's quite exciting, really, to have an artistic project, isn't it? It's
absolutely fun. Especially, I mean, you know, making the best out of a bad situation, having a new creative space and having the time, and not being in London, that must inspire you as well.
Yeah, massively. I think I obviously, working with Gary, he's very pop. So and that's not my background at all. My background didn't have even like a glimpse of pop in it. So to go from folk, alternative, indie, grunge to working with Gary Barlow has been quite a like shift. And I think being here, like the family is so musical, everyone's like playing pianos. I had a funny thing the other day where I was tuning my guitar in here and I was like, can somebody please play an E? And then just from another room I just had a piano playing an E. Like
what are some top tips that you can give us for writing remotely?
So it depends how you're writing remotely. I've personally not done like a Zoom session writing like this, or any writing remote production I've been doing has been over email or WhatsApp.
Okay.
So what I would usually do is work on a track and then send the whole track over, and then they would send me lists of adjustments. But because it's at such early stages, some of the productions where they'd usually be with me, I've just been bouncing out shorter excerpts than I usually would. So because you need to get there's no point in spending hours and hours putting the track down, comping it, editing it and everything, and then go, oh, actually I wanted it a different rhythm. So my advice would be to send a lot more excerpts all the way through, and then you can be like, yes, no, yes, no. Well, often artists don't get a chance to listen to the stems of their tracks. And I'm not saying you should stem out the entire project, but it might be nice for them to hear the guitar part on its own, or hear the drum part with the bass part and see how they interlock, because you can't necessarily always hear that just as a whole track. So it's quite an interesting time for people to hear their songs differently anyway.
So Lauren, you're our headline producer at Project 7 2019, and you're in the Soul Supreme studio, which is the big purple room upstairs. So what's your most memorable Project 7 moment?
I think just the rooms being as cool as they are, like to be able to walk into a room and just see all of the paintings and its style that definitely like influences you just because. I think one song I specifically remember was with Ben, Christian and Tim. Is we were really messing around with a lot of vocal effects, and I think Ben brought his looper in, and we were tracking in the vocals and then reversing them and then like replaying them again and then putting reverb and then pitch shifting them and everything, and then we put that in on the track, and then we just made a massive wall of sound of just like all of these vocal layers up, and it's something I hadn't really done or experimented in that way before. And I think with such a solid bass line, it was so clean over the top, it made a really like nice juxtaposition. So I think like that was really fun, and everyone's just so open to like having fun with it, and no one's like, oh, you can't do that. It's more like, what can't we do? Like, let's go for this. So it's, you know, that was really fun. Overall, the sessions were just amazing as well.
So how did you get on with the stamina of actually working 3 days in a row in situ whilst a resident at Project 7?
The energy was really amazing each day, because although I was in the same space, all of the other people were different. So everyone's bringing that new energy in, and everyone hasn't worked with each other. A lot of people haven't worked with each other. So it's just completely fresh. I think for me personally, I was really nervous. I was, you know, like I'm a new producer. So it's to be in that situation and with the other amazing producers that were on there, I felt like a bit like, I've got to do really good. But I don't know. I just thought it was really fun, and like, you know, you got to be a bit nervous. You got to be a bit like on your toe. I feel like if you're complacent or you're not, you know, a bit anxious about a session, then are you really doing the right thing? So, like, I really liked it. And everyone's so supportive. You weren't going to suggest something and someone be like, "What are they doing?" You know, it's like you say something and then you're going to get a supportive or honest response. And I just really rate that. Such a humble and lovely group of people to work with. So, but throughout the day, I just felt more confident, but I didn't feel like less excited. You know?
Okay, I'm going to fire some quick questions at you. Let me know what your favourite is. Cat or dog?
Cat.
Analog or digital?
Digital for freedom. Analog for sound.
Great answer. Stones or Beatles?
Beatles.
EastEnders or Corrie?
I don't watch either.
Good girl. Neither do I. I don't know. I just thought you might be a stender. I don't know. Okay. Here we go. Books or movies?
Movies, actually.
Heels or flats?
Flats. I don't own a pair of heels.
Oasis or Blur?
Probably Blur.
Oh, cool. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, purely because I've watched them.
Excellent. Lauren Deakin-Davies, thank you so much for checking in with us. You're an absolute star, and we wish you all the best for your career. Please stay in touch, and we look forward to working with you soon.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fantastic.
See you soon. Bye, Lauren. For more info and to apply to one of our Project 7 songwriting retreats, visit us at project7.com.